This is a map of ancient Egypt. As you can see, it's surrounded by deserts on both sides of the Nile, which diminished outside influences and allowed a consistent style to last unchanged for 2,500 years in Egypt. The Nile River provided a crucial role in the development of ancient Egyptian civilization, an important part of their economy, providing food, commerce, and protection. It's considered the longest river in the world. It flows north and spreads out into a wide delta where silt deposits provide fertile soil. Egyptian religious belief focused intently on life after death. Artifacts were buried along with the bodies of the embalmed nobility in order to help their passage into the afterlife. In this slide, we see a small ceramic sculpture of a hippopotamus with a blue glaze and lotus flowers decorating the body. The hippopotamus was sacred to the god Taret, divine midwife and goddess of pregnant women. This small statue was buried with the body of royalty, and because of the dangerous nature of this animal, the leg was often broken so the figure could not harm the spirit of the person being guided into the afterlife. Symbolism is another important quality of Egyptian art. This is the ram-headed god Harsaphes, translated into he who is on the lake. This anthropomorphic figure combines the ram's head with a human form. It's linked to fertility and is associated with water and the virility of male sheep. Another defining quality of Egyptian art is the compact figures that embody qualities of strength and geometric clarity. They stand in a frontal position that was established for royal portraits with the left foot forward. The false ceremonial beard and figures that remain attached to the block of stone from which it's carved. A king and queen are represented here with formal austerity, but with a certain amount of warmth and vitality, seen through the way the queen is touching the king with affection. The cat in Egyptian art represented the goddess of happiness, Bastet. This animal god was an important part of the Egyptian household. They say that when the family cat died, the members of the family would mourn by shaving their eyebrows. Also shown on the right is the sky god image of Horus, the sign of the pharaoh. The falcon combined with the cobra are symbols for the union of kingship and divinity. This is a relief sculpture carved into limestone. It gives us a very intimate portrait of a woman whose name is Lady Lewit. She's having her hair done and sipping milk. The hairdresser's hands create a double symbol of the Ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life. I find this image to be especially intriguing because it reveals the importance of beauty rituals in the lives of ancient Egyptians. They actually had cosmetics 2,000 years before they had pyramids. This is another relief sculpture portraying the idyllic domestic life of the royal family of Nefertiti and her husband, the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten, and their 3 daughters. Nefertiti means the beautiful woman has come. She is supposedly one of the most beautiful women ever recorded in antiquity, but they don't really know where she came from. Together, this couple ruled from 1352 to 1336 BC, and were known for a religious revolution in which they worshipped one god only, Aten, or the sun disk. Here you see the sun's rays turning into hands at the end, forming the Ankh, once again, or the symbol of life. This is a very intimate portrait because you see on the left, you see Nefertiti's husband kissing one of the daughters. And then on the right, you see the one daughter on her lap, and then the smallest daughter on her sort of on her shoulder, touching her face. This is an image of a pharaoh delivering food to the gods. It's a painted relief sculpture that gives us a clear idea of what Egyptian people ate. We see round loaves of bread, roasted fowl, figs, and pomegranate. We know it's a pharaoh because of the cobra. This statue is named Kouros, which simply means male youth, and is from the year 610 BC, an example of the archaic Greek style, which has some qualities in common with the Egyptian, the more formal pose, but has a more lively sense. There are many examples of this type of sculpture. They're usually beardless, nude, and taking that formulaic forward-stepping posture found in Egyptian art. The ancient Greek culture had a different attitude towards being human than the Egyptian. The Egyptian culture was very hierarchical, therefore the strong, rational, and somewhat formal presentation of the nobility. This was in order to maintain authority. In ancient Greek culture, the human form was considered the highest creation of nature, the closest thing to perfection in physical form, coupled with the power to reason. With this came the development of democracy. This statue from the classical Greek period is known as the spear bearer and is from 440 BC. The sculptor, Polykleitos, envisioned the human body as a harmonious set of divinely inspired ratios. It's the product of actual observations and mathematical calculation. It depicts an athlete who once held a spear on his left shoulder. Greek aesthetic principles from this period provide the basis for the concept of classicism, a recurrent sensibility in the history of art emphasizing ideal proportions, a greater interest in anatomy, and more relaxed poses capable of movement and emphasizing restrained emotion. This is Venus de Medici, carved in marble from the 3rd century BC. The height is 5 feet. During the latter part of the classical period, Greek sculpture became much more sensual. Nude goddesses were unknown before this. This Venus represents a feminine ideal in Greek culture, refined with a modest pose. Here is one of the many versions of the goddess Aphrodite. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite is the goddess of love, beauty, and sexual rapture. According to the writer Hesiod, she was born when Uranus, the father of the gods, was castrated by his son Cronus. Cronus threw the severed genitals into the ocean, which began to churn and foam about them. From the Aphros, or sea foam, arose Aphrodite, and the sea carried her to Cyprus. This large ceramic vessel, called a ciphter, was used for cooling wine at a symposia or drinking party. It's attributed to the artist Oltos, an early red figure painter who specialized in decorating cups and other vessels used at symposia. Greek soldiers astride dolphins encircle the body of the vessel. After filling it with wine, participants would have placed it inside a large crater containing cold water. As it bobbed in the water, the dolphins would have appeared as if diving into and leaping from the depths of the crater. This is a sculpture from the later Hellenistic Greek period, and it's of the goddess Urania, who was the muse of astronomy and astrology. She's able to foretell the future by the position of the stars, and often is associated with universal love. Here's another example of the Hellenistic period, and it's called the Laocoon Group. It's based on a story of a Trojan priest who warned against bringing the Trojan horse into Troy. He and his sons were attacked by serpents as a result. It's a great example of the writhing movement expressing great emotional and physical anguish, which was common to the late Hellenistic period, which spanned from 320 BC to 30 AD, the time of the Roman conquest of Egypt. The Hellenistic era saw the rise of Rome, a formidable new force in the Mediterranean. By the 2nd century BC, Rome had become a major power in the Western world, including Western Europe, North Africa, and the Near East, as well as the shores of the Mediterranean. Ruling so many people and cultures took a government with a genius for order and practical politics. Roman art reflects this practical nature. It's less idealistic. Roman portraiture achieved a high degree of individuality. We see old age, imperfections, and personal characteristics. This probably grew out of the Roman custom of making death masks of ancestors. Artists observed specific details and emphasized physical accuracy. This is a fresco or wall painting made with pigment of fresh plaster from a Roman imperial villa, which combines two separate events in the life of the monstrous Cyclops Polyphemus. In the foreground, the Cyclops sits on a rocky outcrop tending his goats. He holds his panpipes in his right hand as he gazes at the beautiful sea nymph Galatea, with whom he is hopelessly in love. In the upper right part of the fresco, Polyphemus is depicted hurling a boulder at Odysseus and his companions who have just blinded the Cyclops. Odysseus' ship is seen sailing away at the far right. This is an 8-foot-tall portrait of the Emperor Constantine, who reigned in 313 A.D. He was the first Roman emperor to make Christianity legal. He moved the capital of the Roman Empire to Constantinople, which led to a split in the Catholic Church. Roman attitudes were changing. The grandeur of Rome was declining. As a result, they were losing their confidence in the material world and turning more towards the spiritual values that Christianity offered. This is a new type of imperial portraiture which reflects these changing values.